My father broke into my apartment and handed me a bill for $500,000 for raising me. I'm not talking about a joke. I'm not talking about some emotional metaphor. I mean an actual spreadsheet. Printed. Itemized. With a number at the bottom that made my hands shake. $500,000. Plus interest. Let me back up for a second, because I need you to understand how insane this moment was. I'm Josephine. I'm 24. I build brands for a living, good ones. The kind that actually make money. I live alone in a loft downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and smart locks on every door. I worked my entire adult life to build this space, this business, this life where I finally felt safe. And on a random Tuesday afternoon, my parents used an emergency key I didn't even know they still had, walked into my home without permission, and presented me with a bill for being their daughter. My father didn't knock. He didn't call ahead. He just appeared in my living room like some kind of debt collector, threw that manila folder onto my glass coffee table, and stood there with his arms crossed. Behind him, my mother Sharon dabbed at dry eyes with a tissue, and my sister Tiffany leaned against my doorframe, looking around my apartment like she was pricing everything for an estate sale. "We need to talk about what you owe us," my father said. I didn't scream. I didn't ask how they got in. My phone was already in my hand. I opened my smart home app and deleted their access right there. Delete user, parents. Delete user, spare key. The lock beeped softly, a tiny sound that felt like a gavel dropping. "Open it," my mother said, her voice doing that trembling thing she does when she wants sympathy. "See what your selfishness actually costs." I flipped the folder open. It was a spreadsheet. Rows and columns on crisp white paper, detailed down to the cent. The title at the top read, "Cost of Raising Josephine, Years 0 to 18. I ran my finger down the list. Diapers. Formula. A prorated share of the mortgage for my childhood bedroom. Utilities split 3 ways. Dental co-pays. Groceries. School supplies. There was even a line item for emotional labor and parenting time billed at $20 an hour. At the bottom, in bold, $500,000. Plus interest. I stared at that number. My brain couldn't process it. This wasn't a guilt trip. This was an invoice. "You're successful now," my father said, and his voice was so calm, so reasonable, like he was discussing a business merger instead of extortion. "You built this business on the foundation we provided. Food, shelter, safety, education. That wasn't free, Josephine. It was an investment. And now that the asset has matured, it's time to pay dividends." The asset. He called me the asset. I looked up at him, and suddenly everything clicked into place. The anger didn't hit me hot, it hit me cold and sharp and clear. They genuinely believed this. They didn't see themselves as thieves or manipulators. They saw themselves as investors collecting an overdue return. "See, here's what you need to know about my family. I have a sister, Tiffany. She's 2 years older than me, and she's been the center of my parents' universe since the day she was born. Tiffany was the golden child. The creative one. The one with potential. She got a new car for trying her best at community college. She got 3 failed business launches funded entirely by my father's retirement savings. She got attention, praise, opportunities. I got ignored. I'm not exaggerating. For 6 years, 6 entire years, my parents barely spoke to me. While Tiffany was posting every second of her life on Instagram, chasing influencer dreams and failing upward with my parents' applause, I was working in silence. I learned supply chain logistics while they were celebrating Tiffany learning a TikTok dance. I paid off my student loans while they bought her another chance at success. I didn't glitter, so they didn't look at me. I was background noise. Reliable and easily ignored. And that anonymity? That was my shield. I built a 7-figure brand without them knowing it existed, because I knew the second they saw value, they would try to extract it. I was right. "We saw the Forbes list," Tiffany said, stepping forward and picking up a glass vase from my shelf, inspecting it with a sneer. 30 under 30. That should have been me, Josephine. I'm the creative one. You stole my aesthetic. You stole my whole vibe. I almost laughed. Tiffany, I sell industrial home decor. Your vibe is pink Pilates mats and iced coffee. We're not even in the same galaxy. It doesn't matter, my father interrupted, stepping between us. He looked smaller than I remembered, like my success had somehow diminished him. The point is, you did this behind our backs. You used family resources. Our time. Our roof. Our credit card when you were 16 to buy that first domain name. We checked the records. That makes this family property. We want 50%. Or we sue you for everything. 50%. They didn't just want money. They wanted ownership of my life. I looked from the spreadsheet to my father's expectant face, to my mother's fake tears, to Tiffany's entitled glare. They thought I would break. They thought I would write a check just to make the hurt stop. They forgot who they were talking to. No, I said. My father's face turned purple. Excuse me? No, I repeated, closing the folder. I'm not paying you a dime. Get out of my house. My mother gasped like I'd slapped her. We tried to be nice, she hissed, and her mask of sadness slipped just enough for me to see the venom underneath. We tried to handle this like family. Now we do it the hard way. They stood there, fuming in my entryway. For a second, I felt 16 again. Invisible. The spare part in the family machine. But then I looked around at my loft, the steel beams, the windows overlooking the city, the business awards sitting quietly on my bookshelf, and the feeling vanished. I wasn't 16 anymore. I was the architect of my own life. And they were just trespassing. I walked to the door and held it open. Leave. Now. Or I call the police and show them the footage of you breaking and entering. My mother's face hardened. She walked past me, stopping inches from my face. She smelled like expensive perfume and desperation. You think you're untouchable because you have money now, she whispered. But you forget who taught you how to fight. We tried to do this quietly. We tried to be civil. But if you want to be treated like a stranger, we can do that. Just remember, strangers sue. They filed out. Tiffany dragged her feet, shooting one last envious look at my office. My father didn't look back. The door clicked shut, and the smart lock engaged. I didn't feel safe. I felt like I was standing on train tracks, feeling the vibration of something coming. They weren't going away. They were regrouping. I didn't sleep that night. I spent it checking my servers, my accounts, my security footage. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped Friday morning. Black Friday was 3 days away. My biggest launch of the year, a new line of modular steel shelving, was queued up. Inventory stocked. Ads running. I logged into my business banking dashboard to approve a final payment to my manufacturer. Access denied. I blinked. Refreshed the page. Account status, frozen. Code 44B. My heart stopped. I called the bank immediately. Ms. Mitchell, the representative said, her voice clipped and suspicious. We received a court order this morning regarding a pending lawsuit for promissory estoppel and unjust enrichment. There's also a flag from the IRS regarding potential asset concealment. Until this is resolved, all accounts are locked. I dropped the phone. They didn't just sue me. They nuked me. A lawsuit takes months to resolve. A freeze takes seconds to destroy everything. They knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't trying to win in court, they were trying to starve me out before I ever got there. If I couldn't pay my manufacturer by Monday, I lost the inventory. If I couldn't pay for ads, the launch failed. If the launch failed, I was insolvent. Everything I'd built would collapse in 72 hours. My phone lit up. Instagram notification. Tiffany had posted a video titled "The Truth About My Sister." I watched it, numb. She was crying. Perfectly lit. No makeup. Voice breaking in all the right places. It's hard when someone you love steals your ideas and cuts you out, she sobbed to the camera. We just want her to come home. We just want our family back. The comments were already flooding in. Sympathy for her. Hatred for the cold, corporate sister who abandoned her family. I couldn't breathe. My business, my life, my freedom, everything was evaporating because my parents decided to pull the plug. My phone rang. My mother. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. Josephine, she sobbed, voice thick with fake concern. We saw the accounts were frozen. I'm so sorry it came to this, but we can fix it. Just sign the agreement. Give Tiffany her share. We can call the lawyers off today. Please, don't make us destroy you. That was the moment the fear died. It was replaced by something colder, sharper, clarity. They weren't family. They were terrorists holding my life hostage. And you don't negotiate with terrorists. I wiped my face. Picked up my phone. Dialed a number I'd been saving for an emergency I hoped would never come. Clayton, I said when he answered. I need to hire you. Now. What's the situation? His voice was gravel and steel. My parents just froze my assets 3 days before Black Friday. They want me to settle. Do you want to settle? No, I said. I want to bury them. Be at my office in 20 minutes. Bring everything. Clayton's office was glass and steel and cold enough to keep anger preserved on ice. We didn't spend time crying about betrayal. We spent 48 hours with a forensic accountant and a pot of black coffee building a case. Clayton didn't offer comfort. He offered ammunition. And when we walked into that courtroom 3 days later for the emergency hearing, we weren't just carrying a defense. We were carrying a nuclear warhead. The courtroom smelled like floor wax and old paper. My parents sat on the plaintiff's side, looking like the picture of elderly fragility. Sharon dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. My father wore a suit slightly too big, hunching his shoulders to look smaller. Harmless. Tiffany sat behind them, glaring at the back of my head. For the first 20 minutes, it looked like they were going to win. Their lawyer, a slick man who clearly charged by the syllable, painted a masterpiece of a lie. Your Honor, he said, voice dripping with sympathy, these are loving parents who sacrificed their own retirement to fund their daughter's ambitions. They had a verbal agreement. They trusted her. And now she has effectively stolen their life savings to build her empire while they face destitution. The judge, a stern woman with glasses perched on her nose, looked at me with thin lips. Miss Mitchell, she said, and her tone was pure reprimand. The evidence submitted here, this spreadsheet of expenses, is incredibly detailed. It suggests a clear expectation of repayment. Familial ingratitude is not a crime, but breach of contract is. I am inclined to uphold the asset freeze until a full trial. My stomach dropped. I looked at my father. He wasn't looking at the judge. He was looking at me. And for a split second, the frail old man mask slipped. He smirked. A tiny, triumphant twitch of his lip. He thought he had me. He thought the detail of his spreadsheet, the meticulous accounting of every dollar he'd spent on me, was his weapon. He didn't realize it was his noose. Clayton stood up. He didn't shout. Didn't pace. He simply picked up a single piece of paper. Your Honor, Clayton said, his voice cutting through the room like a scalpel, we are not disputing the existence of these expenses. In fact, we're grateful the plaintiff was so thorough. Because by submitting this document, Exhibit A, the cost of raising Josephine, Mr. Mitchell has solved a different mystery entirely. Clayton walked to the bench and handed over a file. If the plaintiff insists that this $500,000 was a business loan and fees for services rendered over 18 years, then these payments constitute taxable income. However, we cross-referenced this spreadsheet with Mr. Mitchell's tax returns from the last 2 decades. Clayton turned to look directly at my father. The smirk was gone. He never declared a cent of it. The courtroom went silent. Furthermore, Clayton continued, our forensic audit of his family business revealed where the money for Tiffany's lifestyle actually came from. It wasn't savings, Your Honor. Mr. Mitchell has been systematically embezzling from his own employees' pension fund to cover his personal debts. He didn't sue my client because he was owed money. He sued her because he needed to fill the hole in the pension fund before the IRS found out. I watched my father's face drain of color. This is the irony of greed, Clayton said quietly. It makes you meticulous about what you're owed, but blind to what you owe others. Mr. Mitchell wanted to use the law to rob his daughter. But he forgot that the law works both ways. By itemizing every diaper and utility bill to prove she owed him a debt, he created a notarized confession of his own tax fraud. Clayton let that hang in the air for a moment. You wanted to prove you were a businessman? Clayton asked, his voice low and lethal. Congratulations. You just proved you're a corrupt one. You wanted to audit your daughter? You just audited yourself. The judge's expression shifted from sympathy to disgust. She looked at the tax returns, then at the spreadsheet, then at my father. Mr. Mitchell, she said, and this time the ice in her voice was for him. Is this accurate? My father's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Case dismissed with prejudice, the judge announced, slamming her gavel with finality. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the IRS for a full criminal investigation. Mr. Mitchell, I suggest you find a defense attorney. A real one. My father slumped in his chair. Sharon was sobbing openly now, but it wasn't the fake manipulative crying she usually employed. This was raw, ugly. The sound of someone realizing their world was collapsing. Tiffany sat frozen, staring at the floor. I didn't smile. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. But I wasn't quite finished yet. Wait, I said, my voice cutting through the murmurs. There's one more thing. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope. Clayton took it and handed it to the bailiff, who passed it to my father. What is this? My father asked, his voice shaking. It's a notice of eviction, I said calmly. My father stared at me, confusion warring with fear. Eviction? What are you talking about? We own our house. You did, I corrected. Until 3 months ago, when the bank foreclosed on your mortgage due to non-payment. I bought the debt through a holding company. Sharon looked up, eyes wide with horror. You bought our house? I bought your debt, I said. And since you haven't made a payment in 90 days, I'm exercising my right to foreclose. The sheriff is serving the eviction notice at your property right now. You have 24 hours to vacate. You can't do this. Sharon shrieked, lunging toward me. It's Tiffany's birthday. How could you be so cruel? I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw nothing but a stranger. You tried to bankrupt me, I said. You tried to destroy my life because you felt entitled to my success. Now you know what it feels like to lose everything. I turned and walked out of the courtroom, Clayton beside me. Behind me, I could hear Sharon's wails and my father's shouts, but they sounded distant. Like noise from another life. As we reached the parking lot, I expected to feel relief. Instead, I felt adrenaline surge. My father burst through the courthouse doors, face purple with rage. He sprinted toward me, fists clenched. You ungrateful little witch, he screamed. I'll kill you. I braced myself. But then something unexpected happened. Tiffany, who had followed her parents out, didn't run to help her father. She didn't try to stop him. Instead, she ran to their car, the only asset they had left, jumped into the driver's seat, and locked the doors. Tiffany! Sharon screamed, running toward the car. Tiffany, wait! Where are you going? Tiffany didn't even look at them. She peeled out of the parking lot, leaving her parents stranded on the pavement, their screams lost in the roar of the engine. I watched her go, a cold realization settling over me. They had created a monster, and now it was devouring them. The golden child had abandoned the sinking ship, leaving the captains to drown. I got into my own car and drove away. I didn't look back. I drove straight to my office. The lights were off, but the city glowed through the windows. I sat at my desk and pulled up my contact list. Dad, Mom, Tiffany. I selected them all. Delete, delete, delete. My phone felt lighter in my hand. My chest felt lighter. I checked my business dashboard. The freeze had been lifted. Orders were pouring in for the Black Friday launch. Numbers climbing. A testament to the work I'd done. The life I'd built with my own hands. The launch I almost lost became my biggest success. Every sale felt like proof that I had survived. That they didn't break me. That their greed couldn't touch what I'd built through actual work. I wasn't just a survivor anymore. I was the architect of my own reality. My father and mother were facing federal charges. They were homeless. And they were childless, both daughters lost, one to greed, one to survival. They had tried to steal my destiny. All they did was free me from theirs. 6 months later, I got a letter forwarded from my old address. My mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. Inside was a single sentence, "We're sorry. Please help us." I read it once. Then I fed it into my paper shredder and watched the strips fall like snow. Some debts can never be repaid. And some people don't deserve the chance to try. Here's what I learned. Toxic people will always find a way to justify taking from you. They'll dress it up as fairness, as what they're owed, as an investment that deserves returns. They'll make spreadsheets to prove their point. They'll cry and threaten and manipulate. But at the end of the day, love isn't a transaction. Parenthood isn't an investment portfolio. And family isn't something you can invoice. I built my empire from nothing because they gave me nothing. They wanted to bill me for the bare minimum the law required them to provide. They wanted payment for doing what parents are supposed to do. But here's what they never understood. You can't invoice someone for love. You can't charge interest on care. You can't demand dividends on basic human decency. They treated me like an investment that owed them returns. So I treated them like a bad debt and cut my losses. I'm 25 now. My business is thriving. I have people in my life who chose to be there, not because they're obligated or because they want something from me, but because they actually care. I have a family now. It's small. It's chosen. And it's built on something my parents never understood. Love isn't transactional. It's not an investment strategy. It's not a spreadsheet with a total at the bottom. It's just love. And you can't put a price on that. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about surviving toxic families and building the life you deserve. Sometimes the family you choose is worth more than the one you were born into.